Welcome to Destined for Greatness podcast. I am your host, Devin Woods. I have another special guest today. We have a very, very interesting show today. Miss Karen Watkins. She is the new vice chairman of Gwinnett County School Board. There's so much to talk about, but what I got to get into first, y'all, you know what I got to do. I got to keep it real. I got to go back to what I used to do, and that's getting the show started right. So let me get started with this right here. Have my scripture pulled up right here. So let me get right into it. It says, but select capable men of all people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate distinguished gain, and appoint themselves as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. I share that message with you because right now we have somebody that is definitely fighting for our youth and our children. As I read her bio right now, as a school board member, she says, I will have the opportunity to represent the people who have lived in the Gwinnett County Public School District 1. As a board member, I will also have the privilege to help ensure all children who attend Gwinnett County schools receive a quality education, are safe in schools, and care and support their communities. Safe schools. All of our children deserve safe schools. Working to ensure all schools are safe and helps shield our children from exposure to certain threats and weapons, in addition to good safety programs, will help protect our students from bullying, drugs, forms of violence, and having schools will directly affect our schools' overall income, quality of education. All children deserve a quality education. A good quality education provides our students the source needed to help them become empowered, productive, sustainable individuals who have capability to contribute an overall Gwinnett County community. And without further ado, let me introduce my guest, Miss Karen Watkins. How are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for being part of Destined for Greatness. It's an honor to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get right into it. Like I say, every show, no one can introduce themselves like themselves. Without further ado, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, Karen Watkins, Gwinnett County School Board member for District 1, which includes the clusters of Grayson, Decula, and Archer, and parts of South Gwinnett, and Brookwood. So my profession by day is in commercial real estate, and I am a leader within our supply chain management group. And I help to source and build our network up for our clients to be able to leverage a network of providers to help work through things. One of the major things that I am very proud of, and what inspired me to run for school board is my children. I have 2 children in the school system.
Okay.
They, very proud of them. We moved to Gwinnett in 2015, and our, kids started in kindergarten. My child started in kindergarten. I got 2 children now. They're both in elementary school, and that's one of many reasons why I decided to run for school board. Here I am now.
All right, so to make you want to run for school board, you must have seen some issues that were occurring. So what are some of the things that you thought that you could implement and help with the community as a board director?
So as a school board member, one of the things, so just to give some background, the school board, one of their main duties is to help create policy. Okay. That policy gives direction to the school system. It gives direction to the superintendent, I should say. That's the superintendent that works to implement the policy to drive whatever needs we need as a community, what we've come up as a whole, all stakeholders have come up as a whole, are requirements to ensure our students achieve. And another component that the school board does, they hold the superintendent accountable if they are not, accountable for the policies, ensuring that they are following the policies that are created there by the school board.
Yes. All righty. So So when did you make the decision to run?
October 2019.
Okay. So how was that journey? And how was that journey with just being trying to run to be elected and trying to find people to vote for you and actually make your voice heard? How was that process?
It was tough. So we have a very diverse community, lot of different points of view, a lot of different points of view. But the one thing we all had in common was that we wanted all of our students to achieve. And I think that's what carried me over. It wasn't just one sector of anything, but all of us. What I learned from this community is they want all of our students to achieve. They want them to achieve. They want them to be law-abiding, great citizens of Gwinnett County, and hopefully one day they'll be contributors, taxpayers to this county as well, so that they can continue to achieve in a great school system.
Yes, ma'am. So,
There is in question. That's what's in question.
all right. So let's just dive into some of these important questions right now during the pandemic and the position that you hold. Some of the questions that the teachers are asking and some of the parents are asking is how can we keep our students safe during this pandemic while in school?
So, as a board member, what I think we can do to help in that situation is to create policy that helps to ensure the safety of our children in there, giving clear direction to the school system to ensure that the safety of our children and staff are a priority.
Yes.
That's one of the opportunities of being a school board member is by helping to create that policy, by taking in all the stakeholders' voices, because we are very high level, regardless of popular opinion. Sometimes folks think we try to get into the weeds, but I don't feel that is the case. What we do is we just have to be able to give clear direction, and how we do that, we do it through policy. And one of those things is, possibly, you could through policy, you could enforce laws, right?
Yes.
Sure, certain laws are being held. And with that, when you create this policy, you put a bit of an accountability measure. How do we measure that you are following this to help ensure that you are keeping our students safe, right? And our staff safe during this time. So there's lots of opportunity there. And, everything we're going to be doing, and, I'm sorry for being very vague, but it will be through policy, and everything moving forward with myself. It does take the party of five, which is what we have as far as board members. And we all have to kind of, work towards a consensus of this is how we would like to see the policy to give that direction to the system, to the superintendent.
Very interesting. I have a number of questions that came from teachers that I'm definitely want to dive into, but I definitely want people to get to know you a little bit more. That's what Destined for Greatness is for. It's like they all understand you for your political views or maybe even your personal views, but not many people know you personally. So let's just give a little bit before we get into these deep questions right now, because I have you here for a while and I have some deep questions we're going to get into. But tell people a little bit about your background and how, and you being on the board member, you're the first biracial person ever elected onto the board, and then as now onto being a chairman. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I think I'm the first person of color for vice chairwoman, right?
Yes.
I'm so the first person of color, period, I think. And yeah, it's tough out there. So
how has it been? Has it been a welcoming? How has it been since you've been on the board?
Well, it's been interesting to say the least. Change is sometimes a challenge for folks, right? But I think we're getting to the point of where we as a whole, as a board, are really trying to work to embrace it.
Okay.
We're working towards that. Let's just say that. Because now, as you know, it was a board that had, different type of views before, and also different type of perspective. Now you actually have board members, period, that actually have kids in the system. We're actually members of the system. So it's a little bit different, as sitting as board members. That's why I should clarify that. We're actually sitting Our kids are feeling the policies that are there today, the impacts of those policies there today. Every action, every move, every implementation that the operations has, our children are actually feeling that right now, right? So it's like current state, this is what's happening. And this is I think it's been a long time since the board has had also those customers in place, right? So we're
diversity is diverse,
yeah.
very diverse now. We have different perspectives now. We have different energy,
A whole lot of different perspectives.
Yeah, because one thing about Gwinnett County is that we are a very diverse community in whole. There's all ethnicities that's inside of our small community, and we all have to have a voice. We can't just have one voice speaking for all. So that's what I'm glad and I'm so proud that you are on there. And I want to tell you congratulations on having the courage to even run for such a position when you have a family life, you have children, you have a career, and you still think it's important enough to come out and still do what you have to do for the community. And I definitely applaud you for that. And that's why I wanted to get... Yes, because it's not easy for what you do, and I know you probably get backlash. You hear different things, and and you have to remain strong through that. So, go ahead.
Oh no. I was.
Oh yes. So the question. Oh yeah, but you deserve it because you're a hard worker. But what I do want to ask you is, tell us a little bit about your background of your actual background, how you got to the point of where you are right now, so people can understand the people that are in our leadership positions making decisions for our children. Like, what school did you go to? What college did you go to?
Actually, I went to Penn State University. I got my BS in biology there. What high school? Well, this is good to actually say. Let's go all the way back.
Let's go all the way back.
Let's go all the way back.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about all this. Let's go all the way back. Let's talk about my family, everything.
Yes, that's what I want you to talk about.
Oh yeah. So let's go all the way back. How you went growing up. So I grew up in Queens, New York. I grew up there. I went to Catholic school. All the way up until 7th grade, right? And that's when we decided to move out to Long Island. My parents decided to move us out to Long Island. So I went from extremely diverse, where I had every type of friend in the world, to my middle school formative years in Suffolk County, Long Island. And it was there I learned about adversity. It was there. I went from Shangri-La to this is the real world. Parents telling me, "Oh, I'm part of the cause of lowering our property values, not the real estate recession, but it's you and your family telling children this." Children, okay?
Wow.
Okay, so school teacher telling me, "Oh, you're not going to get into Penn State," and then you got my mother. Don't tell my mother and father that. Don't you tell them. Oh no, they telling you can't get in there. You're going to apply. That's what they're going to say. And you just going to graduate. I don't care what you graduate with, but you're going to go apply and you're going to make sure that you get in there. Right. So, my family has actually, they helped me to deal with that adversity. And I am so grateful. Not everyone has those opportunities. Right. And I'm hoping, as a school board member, I could help to empower some of these students the way that my family and the people my family has surrounded themselves by, to help ensure that, because it's going to be a long time. We still have to deal with adversity, right? If you are of color, at some point, you will have to deal with some adversity. You're just going to have to in this day and age. But it's something where, I was fortunate that I had my family to carry me through a lot of these things. I know when, I was told I wasn't good enough, I wasn't going to be able to do certain things, some opportunities just weren't presented to me. I had my Aunt Una there. My Aunt Una is an activist. She was a activist in the Pan-African movement. She was, a librarian, and was involved, she was in a bombing out in Guyana, it was, she was, trying to help to fight for freedoms and things of that nature. It's, like she had her bookstore where she was always trying to educate young Black people, to help. Oh, excuse me, 1 second. May I pause?
Oh, yes, ma'am. You're a mother first.
You might hear a lot of
Mother
things.
first.
Yeah, sorry about that. Welcome to motherhood. So, trying to where my family, because of their diverse background and their activism, from my aunt, from my grandfather, my cousin, my grandfather, who was the first Black captain in the Merchant Marines.
Oh, can you please tell her? Can you please say that again?
Oh,
That is very important.
oh. My grandfather was the first Black captain in the Merchant Marines, and he got 100 on his. He got 100 on his masters, what they take to become captains. He got 100%. Still wasn't good enough to be able to command a ship at that time. Wasn't good to pass that test at 100%. He was offered ships during his time, but he was so a part of the movement and really wanted equity and equality, both equity and equality, to happen for Black people during this time, that he refused to command ships if they were segregated. He said he will not command a Jim Crow vessel. He will not. So you will just have to move forward until you get me an integrated ship, because we are, in a very nice way, but I am here to fight for equity and equality, right? And he's not over that bound. He even went through, and I learned a lot about it because of being humbled, right? With reference to the Union. The Union did not want to serve him. They did not want to serve him or be a part of the exercise, bringing him on to support him. But he still supported them. He stood with them when they were picketing. He stood with them and did all those things because
powerful.
The importance of having a union and fairness. He knew that importance, and he stood with those folks and tried to ensure that he supported that situation, and then with hopes that they would support him in the future and Black people in the future. So he also integrated. He actually was the first. He was the first to be a part of the union, Black, to integrate the union. The Masters Mates and Pilots Union, and he was also the first to command an integrated ship. So, and the first Black captain, period. So I guess there was no one else that had the qualifications that he had to even do that.
And the reason why I asked that, why it was so important, for one, it is Black History Month, and that's an important part of history that you are a part of, but it also shows the background and the pedigree that you come from, and that you are actually, is in your bones, that you're going to fight for what's right. And that's the importance of why I wanted you to have, so people can know that this ain't a game. I'm seriously here for these children. I'm definitely fighting for their better education. So a little bit more. So now your school, as you said, you went to school, after that, what made you get into, did I lose you?
Hello?
There you go. Mm-hmm. Are you back?
Yes.
All right, there you are. So, all right. So I just wanted you to give a little bit of background. So now we can get into the questions why everyone is here for. But I wanted them to know because it's important. People don't write things like that. They always want to write the negative, or they want to write their opinions. They don't want to know the truth, and that was the truth, coming straight from you. So I have questions coming in right now. I have some questions for some teachers, and one of them asks, how can we ensure social distancing in schools as CDC directed without having caps on classrooms? This creates issues in classrooms, in hallways, and on buses.
That's an excellent question. As you know, the school board develops policy. A part of that insurance is something where we might have to put that type of language in our policy when it comes to pandemics. Okay. Again, I want to be very clear with everyone, because we cannot we give direction to the superintendent, but as far as the implementation component, the how to it gets done, unfortunately, the school board does not manage that, right? And I just want everyone to really understand that, because we have to be very, very careful with that. But however, this is the thing. We give the direction. We give direction, which is a great thing, because we're pretty much saying we need those type of protections, right?
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
Type of protections. We require this type of protection based off of federal guidelines, right?
Yes.
We require that. But then we also do accountability. This is the other great thing. So the superintendent will work with his staff to figure out, how do we get to what they're requiring, right? What you just asked about. How do we get to that, and how do we give that? And what we do is, once they figure it out, we hold them accountable. Okay. So at that point, they'll implement something, and then we'll hold them accountable. Okay. So that's where, because that is an excellent question, because the safety is very, very, very important. That is one of the things where we have to, work through, but we're going to work through it through policy. And the hope is to have all community stakeholders' voices involved. This would be teachers, staff, all of our constituents, all the key stakeholders that are in our community involved in that type of decision making through policy. That would be really, really helpful if we can get all those voices at the table and involved. And we have a visit.
It is okay. It is not the first time.
I'm sorry.
It was going to happen.
Yeah.
So thank you for answering that question. So another question that I have here is, how do you feel about teachers feeling so disrespected by the community and leadership at times because they fear COVID-19 and practices that they're taking are places basically in the schools and on the buses? It's like some of the things that are happening on the schools and buses, like you can't social distance on the bus, but at the same time, they're getting some teachers are saying they're getting backlash because of that. So how do you feel about right now in that? It's a weird situation, but how do you feel about it?
I feel that we can do better, and I feel that excuse me. So I feel that we have opportunity here again to bring these stakeholders to the table, so that we could create policy to help ensure that they don't feel that way anymore. Our bus drivers, our janitors, our teachers, all of those folks, that they do not feel anymore that is, that they are, feeling this way, where they don't feel safe. They don't feel like wanting to come to work. Morale is low. I feel that if we could have them at the table to help develop those policies that are really critical to help them feel better, that'll be that's an opportunity I think we can take here. But again, because the school board is policy driven and we don't do the how-to, it's policy driven, but we hold the accountability. And unfortunately, how do I say this? I see this as an opportunity. I don't want to think negative, but I see this as an opportunity to make sure that that voice right there is heard.
Yes.
And heard through the types of policies that we would put in place.
Good answer. So thank you for that. And okay. So another question is, board representatives and superintendents across Georgia have written letters to reach out to governor's office regarding teachers' vaccines. So what is yours? What do we know so far about the teachers right now, and what is their tier right now with taking the vaccine?
As far as the distribution of the vaccine, is that what you're asking? Or, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The question basically is, how do you feel? When is the time frame for the vaccine for the teachers?
That I don't know. I truly do not know that. As you know, there was a letter that did go out, and that letter, we were, asking for that type of information. But truthfully, I do not know. I know that we are trying to prioritize our teachers and staff here.
Yes.
Sure that they are on, and as you see, because I signed one of those letters that went out. So that it is a priority. It is a priority for our teachers and staff. Again, it comes back to just wanting to make sure our constituents feel safe.
Can you hear me?
I can. Could you
Okay.
1 second? I'm going to go
yes.
ahead and make sure my children are okay here.
It's okay. Go ahead and handle your business.
My apologies. 1 second.
All righty. All right. Thank you so much for still tuning in to the Destined for Greatness podcast. I have Karen Watkins on today, Vice Chairman of Gwinnett County School Board. She is here with some amazing information she's sharing. She's kind of breaking down how the board works, what their position is, and who's accountable for what. And these are the questions that we want to know. And she's answering these questions. And I'm so appreciative that she is here. And I think she's back with us. Let me add her back. And yes, she is.
Yes, I am. Thank you for bearing with me, everyone. I have 2 young children. We're still working through the Zoom thing and their accountability and how they need to behave during this type of world. So
it is okay. It is okay. I have children. That. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Trust me. If anybody understands. Oh, I'm in my office. So they're at home.
Oh, is that how you work through that? Okay, so you got to go to your office. I got to find one of them. I got to get an office.
We're back. I love it. So it's okay. It lets you know how personal you are. That's what it is. We're destined for great. And we're showing how personal that you are, that your babies love you so much they're crawling on your head. So
thank you.
No problem. So let's get right. We can get right back into it. So right now, everything what is going on in the society right now with the children, how do you think that the students' mental health and how they're dealing with things right now, with being in the classrooms, being where they have to wear a mask, they can't talk to their friends, they have to social distance. How do you feel that's impacting the children that's going to school in person?
I think it is a big. As you all know, everyone knows that it's best to have school face to face. And this is, where we are having challenges. And this is where I think we can make an investment in reference to wraparound services. But our children today, especially those with special needs, whether from depression or just whatever special needs that they have that's out there, it is important that we try to get our kids back in school, because coping with mental illness or just being, they're already vulnerable.
Yes, they are.
And I think this is throughout every school system, not just ours here in Gwinnett, but because they need that interaction, whether it's the interaction with the teachers, the interaction with the students. I know we do Zoom. That may, in some instances we do Zoom, right? It's still important to have that one-on-one time or that type of interaction in school and face-to-face because of, especially those with special needs, they need that extra love and care. They just need it. How do we cope with that?
Yes.
How do we work through that during the pandemic? From my point of view and being a board member now, having policy that really hones in on that is an opportunity that we can share and be a part of. It's giving that clear direction to make sure we make these investments of, resources, whether it's wraparound services, whether it's making sure our facilities are extremely safe for the teachers to come in so that the kids can be back at school, right? Because that's what's needed. And it is true. Both of my children, despite what popular belief is, most of my children are face-to-face. They work better in a face-to-face environment. They do. However, does it have to be at the sacrifice of the teacher? of that staff member, of those nurses and everything, how can we make sure that all of these, both the children as well as the staff, are safe? How can we do that? How can we do that as a board member? How do we do that? We can do it through policy, by giving clear direction to the school system, to the board. I mean, to the superintendent, that how do we work through this during the pandemic? If we cannot be in school, how do we still ensure that our kids' mental health needs are met? How do we do that? Do we invest in more wraparound services? Do we, counselors, social workers, psychology, whatever it is that we need, special ed teachers, all those, more of those, maybe they come to the homes, especially if we have to be out. I don't know, because now there comes a financial requirement with it, certain things that go with it, right? But we know that that is one of the, where our children, we know that face-to-face is the best thing to happen for them. It's just, how can we, get them there safely if they have to go to school face-to-face, or if they have to be virtual, how do we make and ensure that their mental health needs, and especially those with special needs, are met? So again, we do that through policy. And I hope this answers is because I want to be very real with everyone, that we're not going to be able to do the implementation component or tell someone how to do something. It just can't happen. It's the law. The school board members, it's the law. It's just not going to, we can't do that. But we have strength in policy, and we have strength in accountability. And it's just getting our community involved to help us give this direction to the school system, and also help hold the school system accountable.
Yeah.
So those are the ways we can work.
Yeah, and that's what happened, because what we're doing is having a back and forth between different ideas. Some people think that we should go in person, and some people think that we should be totally digital, right? And and then when you talk about safety, it's kind of hard to be safe on a bus. It's kind of hard to be safe in a classroom with maybe up to 20 students in a certain circumference. It's not that easy. So we are definitely faced with a challenge with that. We're trying to figure out. We have school board meetings, and I consistently see people come in voice and give their voice, right? How much of that is actually taken into consideration in the board meetings? I don't know, after the meetings and private meetings, because there's a lot of good implementations that some of the parents and teachers are saying in these board meetings, that I think we have some solutions, but we have to put them together all in one. It's like we're saying them to dead ears almost. I mean, we want to be heard right now, because our children are getting sick and our teachers are suffering, and we're trying to find a solution. We don't want to run around no more. We need some solutions, because it's a right now pandemic. It's not a tomorrow pandemic. It's happening today.
That's right. We do need some solutions. And again, it's a part of the board's responsibility to hold superintendent accountable for making sure come up with those solutions.
I agree.
They do the how-to. How do we get there? They implement the direction. And what I want for the public to really understand, I'm going to keep repeating myself, is you do have a voice. Your voice is holding your school board member accountable, okay, for making sure your voice is heard. And whether it's incorporating you in, well, we should always try to incorporate you into, whatever it is we are doing, because you are a community stakeholder, right? So the stakeholder holds the school board person accountable because they elected us in, right?
Yes.
Work for me, okay? So I want to make sure how are you going to ensure that, if people are saying, how are you going to ensure that all these children with special needs are going to, tell me, this is what I need. I need for all our kids with special needs to ensure that they are taken care of, right? That's real high level. Okay, so we develop policy in and around that, okay? And then the school system will go ahead and try to meet that requirement, ensuring that all special needs are made available, are helped through, meeting federal guidelines, doing all this stuff, even during a pandemic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They create something, they do something, but if that parent is still coming around saying the same thing, you are still not doing it, even though you have that policy. What is going on? At that point, we hold the superintendent accountable. Okay. You still told us, during COVID, you're telling us that we have N95 mask. You put it in your policy, but then came back and come find out, not everyone has masks, right? You put that in the policy. It comes right back to us saying not everyone has a mask. We got to go back. How do we hold the superintendent accountable? It goes back to holding the superintendent accountable. As of today, I'm not sure about everyone's experience, but, because the pandemic exposed a whole lot, we are at a point where that we have to figure out how to the accountability measure.
Yes, that's where we are.
Yes, and that's where we're going. We're going to, and this is all in the law. Y'all can look it up. I can share it with you and come to me and I'll share it with you. But this is where, and I want to quote the law for you all because I think it's important because this is how we have to abide by and stay within our parameters because we can't go beyond that as school board members. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh, she cut herself off again. It's okay though. We still here. She'll be right back. I have my special guest today is Karen Watkins. She is actually looking up a law right now that we have to follow because we're trying to find answers of accountability. We have as a school board, I'm asking them questions and she's referring me to policy. And if we follow certain policy and protocols, then the changes can be made. But we have to know these certain protocols. And that's what she's looking at the law for, so she can explain to us so we can start following them. Because we can have all the voice that we want to have. We can be as mad as we want to be, but things are not going to change until they're legally binding. And that's the part that we have to keep into play. We have to start educating ourselves on the laws of some of these issues that we are having. We can't just go off our emotions and our feelings because it's not going to work. It's going to leave us on dead ears like what's happening. We go to these school board meetings and we have the best solutions. They hear our cries, they hear our pain, and we feel like nothing has happened because we're just going off of emotions. We're not going off of what we have to do. And that's why I brought a school board member on today so she can explain to us what the protocol is, who's responsible for this, and who's held accountable if things are not being answered. We need answers. We need to know what we have to do to hold that person accountable that is not doing what's safe for our children in these schools. We have teachers that are teaching at home with COVID, still teaching online digital learning to students that are in person. Now, is that fair? How can you get healthy and recover so you can go back to school? I don't know if that's possible. Then the students have to see their teacher in a sick state of mind and worry about them. If you don't think that stresses them out, it does. They can't talk to their friends. There's so much going on, and we can't just keep yelling. We can't just keep fighting. We just can't just keep arguing. I'm not sure where my friend is. She has not made it back yet, but if she doesn't come back, we might have to close the show a little early. She might have had a disconnection with her internet, but I'm going to give her a few more moments. And I have, if you have any questions, please drop the questions down below. I will definitely be more than happy to answer them. Any questions for me? My name is Devin Woods. This is Destined for Greatness podcast. I'm on every Tuesday and Thursday. I have different guests, different ideas. And this week we have mental health awareness and also caring about our students. And I have Karen back. She is back with us. It is okay. You're muted. Unmute.
Oh, I said we're having lots of challenges here, aren't we?
No, you are okay. We are still running, though, and everybody's still watching. They're very interested in your conversation. So let's get right back into it. You were talking about law. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard this, but the fundamental role of a school board member, a board of education member, is to establish policy for the local school system, and I'm quoting here, with the focus on student achievement. So, for example, if the policy is we would like ensure that we the superintendent is to ensure that social distancing guidelines are met via the CDC requirements. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we put that in there. Okay. But at that point, the fundamental role of the local school superintendent shall be to implement the policy established by the school board. Okay. And this is quotes. And I'm going to quote the third part here. It shall not be the role of the local board of education or individual members of such board to micromanage the superintendent in executing his or her duties. But it shall be the duty of the local board to hold the local school superintendent accountable in the performance of his or her duties. So that's the law.
That's kind of a double-edged sword in a way. Like, how can you do your job at that point? It's weird. Like, you can't. You're nitpicking me. You can't nitpick me because you can't do that one. But but at the same time, you have to hold me accountable. How does that work? And do you see in the meetings or sometimes, you can't tell me personal, but do you see there's a conflict of interest sometimes with that law?
Well, if you just think about the employee relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Team. I hired my team members, the folks underneath me, because they are able to do a certain job. Okay. That's what I hired for their expertise. They get paid the X amount of money, right? In our instance, our superintendent gets paid, very well here to, execute, certain things in policy. It should be something that's easily executed, right?
Yes.
So we have, it shouldn't be a conflict of interest. It's really about that accountability.
Yes.
You hold them accountable. So let's just say this. Let's just give, a hypothetical here. We'll go back to the COVID, and let's just say we have policy that states you ensure CDC social distancing guidelines are met during COVID, right? CDC social distancing guidelines are met during COVID. Okay, mm-hmm. In the policy, ensure that's what we require. This is what the community says. This is what we require, right? So let's see if it happened. Did go to a school and see? We shouldn't be hearing about 40 kids in a class. Max class size is 35. Because there's, max class size 35, you got 40 kids in the class. We already know you're not going to be able to social distance 6 to 10 feet, right?
Correct.
You already know that. That's already, you've already broken policy. Mm-hmm. That's clear policy. Now you have to, you understand. Now at that point, how do we hold them accountable? With policy, there also should be some kind of accountability, right? They have to have a right to cure. We have to figure out, is this a systemic thing? Did this just happen one time, one slip up, right? But if you start hearing that it's happening this school, this school, this school, that school, this school, that school, this school, that's a systemic thing. That's a little bit of a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you hold the superintendent accountable? So not only do we drive policy, but the thing is that policy should also have an accountability measure. And that's where plans come in, strategic plans, maybe a strategic plan for a pandemic.
Like, what about our COVID? So I think they did implement, with my friend Brian Westlake, he's the part of, they have the COVID task force. So that's something that they implemented to try to figure out something during this pandemic that I thought was very helpful.
So yes, so that's with the Congress. That's not in the school system.
Okay.
So what may be coming out of that, right?
I mean, is there anything that we can take from it though?
I hope so. And so maybe it helped to push maybe some federal guidelines, right? That task force impacts the federal, what the laws are within the federal government. Mm-hmm. And that comes filtering down to us. And what the takeaway would be, putting that law in the policy.
Yes.
Ensuring you follow this law, right?
It makes sense.
It's the law, right? So that's the, the hope and the takeaways we would come from it. But then again, it comes down to the superintendent doing their magic in ensuring that we, they follow the policy, the direction that's given, the policy. How do you ensure that accountability? That accountability is the key. That's where it is.
Because when you say accountability, you're right. Because what happens is a lot the parent but it's also chain of command when it comes to that. A lot of the parents thinks that it's the teacher. The teacher goes to the principal. The principal goes to the and it goes and the trickle down effect is to the point where nobody answers. There's no answers because everybody's going to the next person. And then when we get to the head person, it's you can't nitpick me, and that's part of the law. So that's where the confusion kicks in, and why we're like, why is nothing happening? Because it's ultimately, I don't even want to go there. But I almost said something. I'm gonna watch my words because you know what I was gonna say. But
I'm gonna tell you this: it's accountability. It's all about accountability. Mm-hmm. How do you ensure the accountability? It's in the policy. If you notice, a lot of school systems have strategic plans. If you notice, just go to a school system, right? Pick any school system. Let's just pick any school system. Look at their detailed policy, their plans, and even the accountable measures that they have in there. There's accountable measures.
Okay, so this is a good question. So what's the difference of a school like a North Gwinnett versus a school like, let's say, I can't use that. I'm going to say Discovery, but that's too new. So you can't really go off of that. Let's say, but what makes a school like North Gwinnett run so well without all the fuss and arguing, and their numbers are low, their everything is different. What makes it different in that type of community opposed to more Title I school?
Well, so let's just say this. Today, our school system gives some autonomy to the principals. Right? So I don't know what's going on in North Gwinnett or anything like that, but that principal may have some great best practices that they are offering where they're able to retain their staff, that everyone is very happy, and they are, abiding by all the COVID guidelines, making sure that they have 6 feet apart here, doing all these things or whatever it is. They may be doing, something different. I don't know. I'm not familiar with North Gwinnett, but there's another school that may not be doing it as well. But the thing is, at the end of the day, we hold the superintendent, as per the law, the superintendent accountable, because theoretically, they should all be doing well, and it should be standardized.
So why is it so hard for us to know what his standards are, what he's saying? Like I'm a parent in Gwinnett County, and I don't know what the superintendent necessarily thinks or what he has on his agenda, and that's a barrier. Once again, is like how can we hold somebody accountable for something that we don't know what they're presenting to us?
Well, you hold the school board. See, this is a great thing for you all. You get to hold the school board accountable. We hold the superintendent accountable. So you come to the school board, whoever your representative is, right? Okay. And listen, what is going on over here? If you're having an issue, what's going on over here, right? Help me understand this, right? And your school board member should be able, give that feedback back to the superintendent. Especially if he or she is hearing it multiple times over and over again, right? From multiple parents. It's not just someone picking, right? It's multiple parents saying the same thing, or multiple staff members, or multiple whomever, because, they're all, regardless, especially if they live in Gwinnett County, they're all constituents here.
Correct.
Okay. So they do have a voice, actually have a really strong voice, because I'll be very frank, y'all hire and fire me. The people hire and fire me. I'm not going to be perfect in by any means. I'm going to stay within the laws, and I'm going to read the laws, and I'm going to tell you all, here's an opportunity of how we can get your voice here on the table here. And maybe it's adjustment of policy, especially if it's reasonable, but that's what we control. We have to give that direction. But it's the accountability component. I think that's that piece that we're kind of still working through, the accountability. And I think we're still working through that as a board. Where is it important to be accountable? How do we hold the superintendent accountable? All of that should already be referenced in our policies.
Yeah.
Opportunity. It should. And I can send you all the policies, because I keep reading them. But it's really,
I mean, it's very important that we have those policies to share them so we can understand a little bit more about what, like I said earlier, when you were out, we're working off of emotion and everybody's working off how they feel, and we have to work by what's law if we want to see change.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this is where where their strength is, because you can hire and fire um, your board person. They work for you. I work for District 1. I work for District 1. I hear all the diverse voices out there. And when I say diverse, different point of views, you know, different everything. I hear them. And the one thing because I try to find a commonality in the voice, the one thing I have learned is they just want their students to achieve. That's inclusive of myself. And that is the truth. And they, whether it's just their student or it's all the students, they want student achievement. How do we get there? They want their kids to learn. How do we get there? How we get there, not everyone's agreeing on. That's that's where we're having a bit of but the one common factor is they want the student achievement. And we all feel that. That's our goal. That's our end game. What we're here to do. For me, the legacy is to help ensure that our children, this is why I want to leave, are achieving. All of them are achieving.
Yes, and that's a great, yes.
So
yes.
I'm going to do that through policy. We're going to do it through policy as a board.
And that's amazing. All I have,
I'm
gonna only have one or two more questions. I'm gonna let you go back to your family. But one of the, I have a question. One of the questions that I'm seeing as being a repeat question. How do you have class sizes so big in this pandemic, up to 30 kids in a classroom crammed in under these circumstances in the pandemic? What are we going to do about that, and who are the ones that we hold accountable for packing our class sizes in so tight for these teachers and for these students? Like, that's like a question that it's like step one. We kind of know where do we go from trying to at least tackle that animal right now, that the class sizes are growing, they're not decreasing, because more people are getting more comfortable with COVID, so they're sending their children to, or they've had it already, and now you can go to school. How do we prevent this from happening? If we have a guideline of a certain amount of students, we should not be able to break that by no means. So how are we going to prevent that from happening?
Again, that comes back to the accountability portion, because remember, we still have class size laws, different things. And you know what? This is where educating our community on what's out there, right? Educating them on the laws, educating them on the policies, understanding, where we have our limitations. For class sizes, that is, again, the accountability component. We do have strategic waivers in some instances that may waive those types of things, depending on what it is. And just being very transparent with, this is public information, mind you, but you may not know.
Yeah, that's why, that we don't. That's why I'm asking, because I know it's public information. Where do we go to get that public information? Because we can't we can't yell at somebody if they're right. So we have to know what's going on.
Yes, you go to a GCPS website. Okay. It's all in there. Query, look, if you're interested in strategic waivers, what we've waived until we're able to do X, Y, and Z, look up GCPS, strategic waivers. It'll pull it up. Everything is on the website. You can even contact me and I'll send you the link. This is where we have that educating and understanding that. And, even feel free to call the state, call whomever. If you got questions, call your elected official. If you have questions on something, call the school system, talk to your principal. Talk to your principal if you have, questions on something. The hope, they should be able to guide you in that right direction, right? Because you have that right there at your school. Your principal can help you through that, or should theoretically be able to help you through that. Okay.
Do some of those laws change maybe because of the pandemic though? Because since we are in a pandemic, then maybe like we make it like a
exception,
different type of exceptions. Yeah, just because things are not normal right now. They're not how they once were, and we can't just keep running along like it's not happening when it's definitely affecting our community. We have some of the highest numbers in the country.
So I don't think the class size law, if we already have 30 kids, if it's a class of 20 and we got 30 in there, right? The class max class size is 20 and you got 30 kids in there. I don't think that helps with the COVID situation because so that actually might make it even worse. The fact because we're supposed to be reducing, not adding to what's already could
Yeah,
be a law.
but just different laws
Right.
that are set in place right now that we are up against right now. I mean,
State
basically, yeah,
state
state.
laws, the state laws
Okay.
you're probably insinuating, where the Senate passed the bill that indemnified, places like the school for not having to, necessarily deal with COVID, but then you still have federal laws which are not indemnifying us at all. So you have federal laws, you have state laws, two of which may contradict each other, right? But they're two separate laws, and both laws you must, follow, right?
Yes.
So one may protect you over the other one that doesn't. It just depends. The point is that we have to ensure that the superintendent does follow those laws because that helps with the student achievement, you know? So if it's special needs, we should be following the laws in and around special needs, right? There are educational laws in and around special needs. Theoretically, we should be meeting those guidelines for our children, whether it's virtual or in person. Okay? There are laws maybe with reference to class size. In some instances, it can battle with like the CDC type of stuff. Maybe we do have to update our policies to ensure that we include those types of things. I know in our plans, there's plans that actually include, CDC type guidelines. Are we following those plans? And they're actually posted on the website as well for the pandemic. They haven't been updated lately, but those are plans that were out there and that we should be following, right? It's just, again, it all goes back to the accountability. And it goes back to the law. The law for a school board member, where our power, we have a lot of power in giving direction, but how do we hold the superintendent accountable for following that direction?
There's one way. I have an answer. When are the elections? That's the answer. That's the answer. We have to figure out when the elections are, and
When the
that'll help
elections
us. That's step one.
You're
I
funny.
don't. So I mean, we just trying to make peace here.
Oh,
We're
boy.
trying to build our community. We don't want these same questions by the same people over and over, like you stated earlier. They're only happening because they're falling on deaf ears. I don't know the man personally. I haven't spoken his name one time on this show because I hope I have enough respect for him to come on Destined for Greatness one day to be able to talk to the people like you did, a part of the board, because I give equal opportunity, because all voices need to be heard to come to some type of resolution. We can't do everything through hate. If I keep saying that I hate this man, or he says these people don't listen to me, their heart, where are we getting with that? We're chasing our tails, and we're trying to lead forward because there is somebody being affected by this. It's called teachers and students. And we have to make sure that they're being protected, and we're not caught up in our egos. We're not caught up in those type of measures that are preventing measures that can change lives right now, change the mental health and physical health of teachers and students, all because of a personal feeling. That's selfish, and we have to get over selfishness if we want our community to build.
Yes, yes. And yeah, personal feelings really have no place in this, you know.
No,
And
that's what's
it's really
happening.
hard. Yeah, but you know what? It's sometimes even really hard because I'm gonna say this because I have my two kids in the system. And it can, I think it could be difficult, especially or at least for me, I know I'm very passionate about certain things. I see how the teachers, my teacher friends, my family, my children, their friends, you know, are all impacted by this, you know,
Yes.
and so and then I see how I'm even impacted by it. My husband is an avid face-to-face, he wants his kids, he wants these kids in school. He wants them in school. He wants them face-to-face. And it's, I live with that man. He's the people that call me all, he's that same person that me all day about the face-to-face learning. We want our children to be face-to-face. It's just, how can we make sure everyone is safe? How do we do that? I think we can do it. We can. But then again, it comes to policy
And accountability.
that policy and holding them accountable.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And that's what it is. It has been another awesome show. You've been an amazing guest. So much helpful information. I am so appreciative that you took the time out of your day. So get back to them little kids, 'cause I know they're waiting on mama to make some dinner, to do something, to play with them color. They wanted your attention, so I don't want to hold you any further. Thank you so much, Karen, for coming on. I hope it won't be the last time. We have so much to talk about. I'm going to be on your guys' case. This ain't the last time you hear from Devin Woods and Destined for Greatness. We definitely hope to have you back on to explain more changes that are happening. And next time, hopefully, we're in a better state than where we are right now in this pandemic when I talk to you.
Yes, I think I have hope.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, and I appreciate all your work, and good luck in your new position.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your support.
All right. Have a good day.
Take care.
And there it is. Another Destined for Greatness podcast wraps up, guys. It's been an amazing time with you guys today. Very, very important information was shared. That is the last podcast for the week. I'm actually literally slowing down, going to 2 days a week, every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can tune in to me. Next week, I have Entrepreneur Week. I have 2 very special guests for Entrepreneur Week. So tune into that. Make sure you're checking my page out. So everybody, if you have not followed, follow me so you can get the alerts when Destined for Greatness is coming on. And if you see that cash up there, it's Legend Studio. That's just for your support. I don't care if it's $1. Just support, because you see I'm out here working. Thank you so much for being part of Destined for Greatness family. I love y'all. And like I say every time, I'm out.